You catch yourself avoiding mirrors when you walk past them, not because you are vain, but because the reflection shows you something you are still learning to accept. The hair that once gave you confidence now lies thin across your scalp. And when you run your fingers through it in the shower, more strands come away in your palm than stay rooted where they belong. What bothers you most is not vanity, but the quiet way this change has altered how you move through your day, how you position yourself in photographs, how you choose where to sit when the lighting is bright, and the small, persistent awareness that something fundamental about your appearance has shifted in a direction you cannot easily reverse. I have practiced medicine in Japan for more than 60 years. I am 27 years old. What you are experiencing with your hair has a precise biological explanation and is not simply an inevitable consequence of aging. There is a three-oil preparation that addresses the root cellular mechanisms responsible for follicle weakness and shortened growth cycles. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly what is happening beneath your scalp and why this specific combination works when single ingredients often fail. Stay with me through this entire video because at the end, I am going to tell you the one food category that blocks hair regrowth even when everything else is done correctly, creating inflammation that prevents follicles from responding to treatment. You need to hear everything before that piece will make complete sense. Type the number 47 in the comments right now if you are ready to commit to a twice weekly scalp protocol that requires 20 minutes of your time. I read every comment. Hair growth occurs through a precise cellular dance between the dermal pillar at the base of each follicle and the matrix cells that produce the hair shaft. In healthy follicles, the dermal pillar receives rich blood supply carrying oxygen and nutrients, while specialized cells called keratinocytes divide rapidly during the anagen growth phase, which lasts 2 to 6 years. As we age, three distinct biological changes disrupt this process. First, the enzyme 5-alpha reductase becomes more active, converting testosterone into dihydrotestosterone, which binds to receptors in the hair follicle and triggers a cascade that miniaturizes the follicle over successive growth cycles. Second, microirculation to the scalp decreases as capillary walls stiffen and blood flow becomes sluggish, starving the dermal pillar of the nutrients required for vigorous cell division. Third, the anagen phase shortens from years to months, meaning each hair cycle produces progressively shorter and finer strands before the follicle enters the resting tegun phase. These three mechanisms working together explain why your hair has become thinner, why growth seems slower, and why areas that were once full now appear sparse. The preparation I am going to share addresses all three root causes simultaneously rather than targeting only one mechanism at a time. A study published in the Journal of Dermatological Science followed 120 adults with pattern hair loss for 6 months and found that participants using a specific essential oil blend showed a 22% increase in hair count compared to their baseline measurements, with the most significant improvements occurring in participants over age 50. Today, I am going to give you the preparation, the complete method, and the precise protocol, and I will explain exactly why each element works at the biological level so that you understand what you are doing and not simply following an instruction. Rosemary oil contains carnosic acid, a phenolic compound that functions as a natural 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. When carnosic acid makes contact with follicle cells, it competes with testosterone for binding sites on the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, effectively reducing the conversion of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone at the follicle level. This mechanism directly addresses the hormonal miniaturization that causes follicles to shrink over time. For people over 60, this is particularly important because 5-alpha reductase activity tends to increase with age, making the enzyme inhibition more valuable than it would be in younger adults. The conic acid also exhibits anti-inflammatory properties through NF-κB pathway suppression, creating a more favorable environment for follicle regeneration. Peppermint oil provides menthol, which produces a dual mechanism of action that differs completely from rosemary oil's hormonal approach. Menthol causes temporary vasodilation of the tiny capillaries that feed each hair follicle, increasing blood flow and nutrient delivery to the dermal pillar cells at the base of the follicle. More significantly, menthol has been shown to upregulate insulin-like growth factor, one expression in dermal pillar cells, which directly stimulates the cell division required for hair production. This addresses the circulation and growth factor deficiency that develops with age. The vasodilation effect is why you will feel a cooling, tingling sensation when snorts. You apply the preparation, and this sensation indicates that blood flow to the follicle base is being enhanced. Castor oil serves as both the carrier oil and the third active mechanism through its high concentration of rinoleic acid. Rhinanolic acid binds to prostaglandin E2 receptors in the hair follicle, snorts activating cellular pathways that extend the anagen growth phase and prevent premature entry into the telogen resting phase. This mechanism addresses the shortened growth cycles that cause hair to spend more time resting and less time actively growing. Castor oil's thick viscosity also provides extended contact time, allowing snorts, the active compounds from rosemary and peppermint, to remain in contact with the scalp for hours rather than minutes. For mature skin, which tends to be drier and less permeable, this extended contact is essential for compound penetration. The preparation requires 3 tablespoons of cold-pressed castor oil, 12 drops of rosemary essential oil, and 8 drops of peppermint essential oil. Begin with the castor oil in a small glass bowl. Add the rosemary oil first, then the peppermint oil, and blend thoroughly with a wooden spoon for 2 minutes to ensure complete distribution. The castor oil must be cold pressed because heat processing damages the rice oleic acid content. The essential oils must be added to the carrier oil rather than applied directly to prevent skin irritation and to allow proper dilution. Store this mixture in a dark glass bottle away from light and heat where it will remain stable for up to 6 months. To apply, section your hair to expose the scalp and use your fingertips to massage the oil blend directly onto the scalp in circular motions covering the entire area where thinning is present, plus 1 inch beyond into areas with normal hair density. The massage should last 3 to 5 minutes because the mechanical stimulation itself increases blood flow, and the circular motion helps work the oils through the outer layers of scalp tissue. Leave the treatment on for 20 minutes exactly because this duration allows the active compounds to penetrate the follicle opening and reach the dermal pillar without oversaturating the scalp, which can clog pores. After 20 minutes, rinse with lukewarm water first, then follow with a gentle shampoo to remove the oil residue. Apply this treatment twice per week, allowing at least 2 days between applications because the prostaglandin and growth factor effects continue for 48 to 72 hours after each application. 6 months ago, Fumiko, who is 68 years old, came to see me because her hair had been thinning progressively for 3 years, and she had tried 2 different commercial hair growth serums that produced no visible results. She had also used a popular vitamin supplement for 6 months without improvement. The serums failed because they relied on single active ingredients without addressing the multiple biological pathways involved in age-related hair loss, and the vitamins failed because nutritional approaches cannot overcome the hormonal and circulation changes that occur at the follicle level. Fumo began the 3-oil protocol using the exact preparation I have just described. After 18 days, she noticed that her hair felt different when she washed it. Not thicker yet, but somehow more substantial, and she was pulling fewer strands from her brush each morning. I told her this was the first sign that the growth phase was beginning to extend and that visible changes would require at least 6 more weeks of consistent application. Between weeks 4 and 6, she experienced doubt because the visible improvement seemed minimal, and she asked if she should increase the frequency to daily applications. I explained that more frequent applications would irritate the scalp and disrupt the cellular recovery time between treatments, and I instructed her to continue exactly as prescribed. At week 7, she noticed that the part in her hair appeared less wide, and small new hairs were visible along her hairline when she looked closely in bright light. By week 16, the improvement was unmistakable. The hair at her crown had gained noticeable density, the hairline had filled in with new growth, approximately half an inch long, and her hair felt thicker when she ran her fingers through it. Not a complete restoration, not the hair of a 40-year-old, but a genuine, measurable, visible improvement that changed how she felt when she looked in the mirror each morning. At week 20, her daughter visited and immediately commented that Fumiko's hair looked fuller, asking if she had changed her styling or gotten a treatment without knowing anything about the protocol she had been following. Many people believe that because hair loss runs in their family, nothing can be done to change the trajectory. This belief contains a partial truth because genetics do influence 5-alpha reductase activity and follicle sensitivity to hormones. However, this belief overlooks the fact that genetic predisposition creates vulnerability, not inevitability. The genes determine how your follicles will respond to hormonal and environmental factors, but those factors can be influenced when you reduce DHT conversion through Clear's throat 5 alpha reductase inhibition, improve follicle blood supply through vasodilation, and extend growth phases through prostaglandin activation. You are working within your genetic framework, but optimizing the conditions for the best possible outcome your particular follicles can produce. Your genetics set the range of possibilities, and this protocol helps you reach the higher end of that range. The second belief that prevents success is that natural preparations are too mild to produce real change compared to pharmaceutical treatments. This belief exists because many natural hair preparations use extremely diluted concentrations or single ingredients that address only one pathway. However, when natural compounds are used at proper concentrations and combined to address multiple mechanisms simultaneously, their effects can be quite powerful. The study I referenced earlier showed improvements comparable to prescription treatments, but without the systemic side effects that concern many people over 60. The key difference is precision in preparation and consistency in application rather than the source of the compounds being natural or synthetic. Here is the mistake that prevents this preparation from working even when everything else is done correctly. Most people wash their hair immediately before applying the oil treatment, thinking that clean hair will absorb the oils better. This is wrong because shampooing strips away the natural sebum barrier that actually helps the active compounds penetrate the follicle opening. When you apply oils to freshly shampooed hair, the active compounds sit on the surface of dehydrated scalp tissue and cannot reach the dermal pillar where the growth mechanisms are located. Instead, apply the treatment to hair that has not been washed for at least 24 hours when the natural oils are present to facilitate penetration and the follicle openings are not tightened from detergent exposure. Your action plan for this week begins with sourcing the 3 oils and preparing your first batch of the treatment blend. Purchase cold-pressed castor oil, therapeutic-grade rosemary essential oil, and peppermint essential oil from a supplier that provides batch testing information because purity directly affects the concentration of active compounds. Prepare the mixture using the exact proportions I described and store it in a dark glass bottle to prevent degradation from light exposure. Second, identify the 2 days this week when you will have 25 uninterrupted minutes for application and rinsing, and mark these on your calendar as fixed appointments with yourself because consistency from the very beginning establishes the cellular rhythm that produces results. Choose days that are at least 2 days apart, such as Tuesday and Saturday, to allow recovery time between treatments. Third, before your first application, take clear photographs of your scalp from multiple angles in bright natural light, focusing on the areas where thinning is most apparent because the gradual nature of hair regrowth makes it invisible to daily observation. Set a reminder, 4 weeks from today, to take the comparison photographs. The change that happens in follicle activity in the weeks following the first application is not visible to the naked eye day by day. The photographs across 4-week intervals are where you will see clearly what the mirror misses. The reflection that troubles you now, the thinning that has changed how you see yourself, does not have to be the final version of your story. Fumiko discovered that consistent action over the correct time frame produced not a miracle, but a measurable return of thickness and density that changed how she moved through her days. What you choose to do with this information in the next week will determine whether 6 months from now you are still avoiding mirrors or looking into them with quiet satisfaction at what persistence biological precision can accomplish. If you typed 47 in the comments at the beginning of this video, that commitment matters. Begin by sourcing your oils this week and taking your baseline photographs before any applications. Please subscribe if today was useful to you. Leave a comment telling me how long you have been noticing the thinning and which area of your scalp concerns you most. I read everyone. I will see you next time. I think you should check this video out next. Yes, this one is great. It is great. Enjoy and see you in the next.